3.5 years ago, I bought this inexpensive hoop house from Amazon, and I wasn't sure how long it was going to hold up. But honestly, we're going into year 4, and I'm impressed. Now, it's not perfect, so in today's video, I'm going to give you an honest review. I'm going to show you the wear and tear so that you will know what to expect. I'm going to tell you all the ways I've been able to use this hoop house to benefit not only my garden, but also my backyard business. And I'm going to answer some commonly asked questions so that you can decide if this is a good fit for your garden. Let's dig in. This is the Kingbird hoop house that I bought on Amazon. I paid $185 for it with tax. And at the time, there were only 2 models. This one, which is 15 feet long by 6.5 tall and 6.5 wide. Nowadays, they have a ton of different models of all different sizes. They even have one that's like twice as big as this one. They have one where the plastic on the sides rolls up and it's just screen. They have one with shade cloth on the top. They have one with a misting kit, which would be fantastic for seed starting or propagation. But back when I bought this, there were only 2, and I got the biggest one that they had. Now, I chose the Kingbird versus some of the other brands because it had 3 bars on the top, and I really felt that that was going to make it a lot more sturdy. The other reason why I chose this one was because it has 8 windows, 4 on each side of the hoop house, which have screens in them, so you can roll up the plastic and then just have the screen. And it also has screens on both the front and back door. I love that because I can work out here any time of the day. As long as the sun is out, I can roll down the screens and stay relatively bug-free and not get eaten by mosquitoes. I also can get a little bit of a breeze as opposed to a greenhouse, which may not have anything that opens. So come and take a look, and you'll see there is some condition issues after 3.5 years. First, some of the plastic has ripped by the frame and the bolts. Some of the Velcro that holds the plastic onto the frame has ripped. There are some holes and tears in the screens, especially by this back door. In back of that, there is a multiflora rose, which is like a weedy rose that grows in my area. If you're interested in learning more about dangerous weeds like that, I have a video on that. But overall, the structure is still in good shape. One negative that I can give you for this hoop house is that you cannot buy replacement plastic from the company. You can buy other greenhouse plastic and try to make it fit, but they do not just sell the plastic. So once this wears out, you have to buy a new kit. I think that's probably because it's so inexpensive that in order for them to just sell you the plastic part, it probably would cost almost the same amount of money. While there are some condition issues, I really believe that this hoop house is going to last me at least another year or 2. I'm hoping to make it to 5 years. I'm not sure if I will, but I think it'll be close. Over the last 3 years, I found so many uses for this hoop house. First, I bought this hoop house to overwinter tender plants. When I was first starting my business, I had a ton of plants that are only hardy to zone 7. I live in zone 7, and potted plants are more susceptible to freezing and dying if they are not hardy for 2 zones below where they are being housed. So being able to put them in the hoop house offered them that extra protection so that they would thrive through the winter, and they did. In fact, I have another video where I talked about how the hoop house helped all of my plants survive a polar vortex. I will link that in the description below if you'd like to see it. I use the hoop house to protect plants that are only hardy for zone 7 and even a little bit above, like gardenias, and also for all of my baby plants that I'm growing out that would not thrive in those harsh winter conditions. And I have to say that over the last 3 years, my plants have done really well overwintered in this hoop house, and I've had probably about a 98% success rate in keeping things alive through the winter, which has been fantastic for my garden and for my business. I also love this hoop house because it helps me with 2 of my favorite things. The first is plant propagation. I propagate tons of plants for my own garden and again for my business, and the natural humidity that builds up in here really helps the plants to root. Let me show you what I mean. Here is a tray of butterfly bush and hydrangea cuttings. You can see that they all look turgid and green, and they are thriving in this humid environment. And the hoop house protects them so that they don't get any direct sun, and the humidity really helps them to put on roots quickly. And my second favorite thing that I use this hoop house for is rehabbing clearance plants. Now, I got this hosta at a local big box store for only $5, but it would have retailed for $24.99. So I saved a bunch of money, but you can see that there are some serious condition issues with this plant. So I use the hoop house to triage my plants and give them a safe space when they're struggling for any reason, either because I bought them from a clearance rack or unfortunately because something went wrong in my own yard. Sometimes things get too much sun or they're next to bigger plants and they get blocked from the sprinklers and they need a little bit of extra help. So by being able to bring them into the hoop house, I'm able to get them back on the road to health so that they can be planted out or sold. At the time that I'm filming this video, it's summer, and I use this space primarily for plant triage, but also for a workspace. I work out here. I have all of my tools here. I have my soil, my garden tools, I have my fertilizers, and I work out here with my plants. This one is a panicle hydrangea that I propagated through a hardwood cutting, and now it's ready for uppotting. So I have my soil here, I have my plant, I have some of my pots out here, and I can come out here and work anytime that I want. If it's raining, the plastic protects me from the rain. If it's hot, I can open all the windows and the screens and I can get a breeze. And if it's late, I can make sure that all of the screens are down so I don't get eaten by mosquitoes. When the temperatures start to drop in the fall, I will start packing in all of my sensitive plants, including the baby plants that I've propagated, into this hoop house to protect them from the cold in the fall and the winter. One tip that I have for you, something that I learned the first year, is that you don't want to put your plants right against the plastic because the heat from the sun will be magnified, kind of like Piggy's glasses in Lord of the Flies, if you remember reading that in high school. And if you have foliage up right against the plastic where the sun is coming in, it can burn. So just be careful with that. Leave a little bit of space in between the leaves and the plastic. My plants will overwinter beautifully inside this hoop house, and then in January, it's all about seed starting. I start my seeds in my house because I keep them under grow lights, and most seeds germinate best between 65 and 75 degrees, which is perfect for my house. But once those seedlings start growing, it's time to bring them out here to let them harden off slowly. So they grow out here in the hoop house and then they go outside when they're ready. And it really allows me to extend my season. I also sometimes bring my potted vegetable plants like tomatoes in here in the fall, and I'm able to extend my growing season that way as well. Another real benefit that I found with this hoop house is it is completely movable. My husband can pick this thing up by himself and drag it anywhere around the yard that we might need it. Two people can pick it up and move it very easily. So we'll use this more in a sunny location in the winter where we want to keep things warm, and then we'll move it into the shade once the warm weather comes to keep it cooler so that I can use it as a workspace without getting too hot. One other benefit that I found from the windows is that if I leave the plastic rolled up with just the screens in place and I position the hoop house the way it is now, my in-ground sprinklers actually go right through the windows so that I can put plants in here and they still get watered even without a misting kit. Some commonly asked questions that I get, number one is, will it blow away? Yes, it can blow away. So I live in coastal Long Island. I'm about a mile from the bay. So we get significant wind here. I would not, under any circumstances, put this hoop house up and just trust the stakes that it comes with. We line the outside flaps that go along the ground with bricks. And because of that, it has stayed stable. We did, for the first time this year, have the hoop house actually blow over. Like I said, I live in a coastal area, so we do get significant wind, and it hasn't really been an issue. But this year, for the first time, I think it was our windiest year on record. And one morning I came out and I saw that the plastic was just a little bit crooked. It had moved over the past week when we had a ton of wind, and I thought, I should probably fix that or replace the bricks, but I'm a busy mom and I didn't. And then the next morning, my husband and I were at our kitchen window and we were making our coffee, and we looked out and we saw the whole thing blow over. Now, luckily, I keep this hoop house next to a row of arborvitaes. So it kind of rolled over and blew into the arborvitaes, but then it stopped. And because we happened to be home, being that it was a weekend, we ran out. We were able to flip it over easily and replace it and replace the brick so that it didn't happen again. And we didn't have any damage, thankfully. If you live in an area with extreme weather, this is probably not going to be for you. So if you live in Tornado Alley, this is definitely not going to hold up to a tornado. If you live in an area where you get really difficult storms, this probably wouldn't work for you. Or even in some places like the desert or in places in Florida where it's really super hot, I think that this probably wouldn't last that long because with the sun constantly pounding down on it, I think that the plastic would probably erode pretty quickly. But if you live in an area with just average weather, it will probably last you at least a few years, hopefully 5. Another question I often get is, does it get too hot? And yes, it absolutely can get too hot. When it is a full sun day, there are certain times of the day when this is in full sun, even though it's under trees, that I just can't work in here. It gets too hot. So at that point, I take a break, I go have lunch, I go swimming with the kids, and then I'm able to come back out later once the sun has moved. But it can get very, very hot in here. Even with the plastic rolled up and the screens down, if it's in full sun in the summer, it will get very hot. Another question I get asked often is if it would work for a chicken coop. Now, I have chickens, so I can definitely tell you that this would work as a chicken run. This would not work as a chicken coop if you have predators near you. If you were to house your chickens in a hoop house like this, raccoons or fox could totally get in here without too much of a problem, and they would wipe out your flock in one night. If you wanted to use this as a portable, movable run, you could do that, and I know that for a fact because I'm doing that with my other structure. I have 2 of these hoop houses. This one I keep set up during the summer. The other one I used to just drape with shade cloth for some of my plants that preferred shade. But this year we had an area of our yard that we left really overgrown for the pollinators. And we wanted to let the chickens be able to go in there, but we didn't want the chickens out everywhere, being able to attack the vegetables in our garden and eat other plants. So we took just the metal structure from our other hoop house, we put it in the area where we wanted the chickens to be. We draped it with netting, and now they have free range in there, and my husband doesn't have to mow that area of the yard, which has been a win-win. I hope this video was helpful for you today. If you have any questions about this hoop house, then drop them in the comments below, and I'll answer anything that I can. If you live in an area with really extreme weather, something like this is not going to work for you. You may want to look into the Yardistry greenhouse that's sold by Costco, but they also sell them on their own website. I did a video on comparing the greenhouse to this hoop house, and I will leave that in the comments below if you'd like to check that out. I'll also leave links for all the different hoop houses that Kingbird makes on Amazon, so you could research those if you're interested. Thanks so much for watching today. Have a great day.